What is going on, everybody? Jumbo Thick here, back with more Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, our Rise of the Forsaken campaign. I, of course, will be your GM for tonight, Mr. Jumbo Thick, joined by the unfortunate fellowship, my good friends, Jumbo Smooth and Doobie 209. Do you guys care to introduce yourself to anyone that might be picking up I guess this would be like the second or third adventure that we're probably going to be starting here in a moment. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
That's true. Spoilers. I am Jumbo Smooth. I'll be playing the role of Marius Wolf. Minor. Family man, apparently.
Family man now.
Yes. And drinking buds with old Seamus over there.
Good old Seamus.
That's me.
Yep.
I am Doobie209. I will play, or am playing, Uncle Seamus.
Uncle Seamus.
Uncle
super
Seamus.
creepy. Please tell me you've grown a pedophile mustache in between adventures.
Ooh, yeah, and it curls.
It curls, yes,
as
I
well
like it.
on the ends.
Yeah. Oh, I'm into it. Continue, sorry.
So Helga will also be into it. I can't. Wait.
Yeah. You'll have to.
She's still around.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get tabs on everything. So, with the introductions out of the way, last we left off, we had a bit of a doozy dropped on us as Marius found out he has a daughter, little Priscilla. At least Sarah thinks it's his. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Let's find out. You guys returned from your escapades in Dapone, and you stumbled upon a very interesting meeting, if you remember, between some like rat mutant people. Craziness. And you also, Marius, you also saw the tall robed figure with the kind of antlers coming out of the hood, very almost like stag, elk-like. You saw an exchange was made, things were passed, and the skull that went missing on your adventures in Dapone reappeared all the way in Burg somehow. Very mysterious indeed. You made it down the mountain successfully. It was touch and go there for a moment, but you did make it down. In addition to that, you also had a bit of a meeting with one Mother Inga, as a few questions were answered and possibly many more were cryptically pushed off to another day. You discovered the fates of the two individuals you left with Mother Inga in her care. You also, Seamus, I believe, had some corruption pulled out of his body rather violently. What else happened? You guys walked back into town in the middle of the night during a storm, pretty much almost naked. You decided to remove most of your clothes from the Far East, dropped them, left them out in the wilderness, though they were probably relatively useless at this point. They've seen a lot of use. So we are going to pick up with you guys having made your way into the Thaggy. All that shit happened. And instead of us role-playing everything that's about to take place, I think we're going to do the old hand wave. And I'm going to have you guys ask me questions about what you want to know, about what's happened in the time you were gone, because there is a lot to cover. And I feel like it's going to take a excessive amount of time if we role play all of it. So we will just open up with, I'm going to give you guys each a few questions, and then I will give you just general knowledge of things that you might have, you would automatically find out by being in Burg. An entire year will have passed from which you entered into the city till when we're going to pick up with our next adventure, as I'm going to call it right now. So, questions. Let's start with Marius Wolf. Got any questions?
boy, do I.
Oh no, I know you do. Let's start with one
So-
question, and then we'll tag out to Seamus.
Okay, we'll take out Seamus. Is Priscilla my child?
Oh,
Is Priscilla your child? Sarah, basically, yes. After a very heartfelt moment where all the glass is shattered and everything, she was in shock. Didn't quite know if you were a ghost come to haunt her because she's been waiting for your return for so long. 8 years have passed, and yes, you both were missing for 8 years. You were presumed dead. In all ways and all of the interesting aspects that might have take place in your absence. So she informs you that yes, she definitively knows that Priscilla is your child. And to top it off, if you were to press the issue, would you press the issue?
Press the issue of
Or are you
my
going
child?
to ask around and things like that, or
Probably not ask around. He'd probably just say his word.
if you spend, I mean, you spend time at the Thaggy often, I'm assuming. So Thordum would inform you that she's been holding a torch for you this entire time, as far as he knows.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what she does outside of the Thaggy. She has a rather interesting life now, as
Okay.
she has been working 2 jobs to support herself and little Priscilla during Marius's absence. There was something that happened shortly after you guys set out that, if you will think all the way back, there was something that she was being asked to do by Father Lichter. She now volunteers at the Temple of the Holy Sisters during the day. It is a branch of the Sisters of Shalia. It's a temple inside Sealburg now. Rather large space, in fact. That with the aid of Mr. Father Lichter, they helped set the groundwork for, and the sisters were in fact the ones that delivered Priscilla, as there were not any healers present during that time. So she's had a deep connection with them, and often will help out with her limited knowledge, which now is actually pretty expansive knowledge of medical work and the heal skill. Wink, wink. She's very proficient with it now. By night, she works the tavern for a free room from Amberbelly. That has more than once, Mr. Amberbelly has accidentally overpaid her when little Priscilla has needed a few new sets of clothes or possibly school supplies.
Very nice.
Okay, and we're going to cut away from you. Seamus, question.
what happened to Sealburg? There's cannons and a big stone wall.
So you want to know, obviously there was expansion. They were working on the wall even before you guys left. It did not look like it was. It looked like it was going to take a long time. And granted, a long time has passed. But essentially, this is going to be this is kind of a difficult question. So I'm going to have you make me a roll, Seamus.
All right.
I need you to make me a gossip roll. And depending on how well you do will depend on how much you find out.
All right. I'm not going to find much. That's a critical failure.
Critical failure. A lot of people don't like you in town, Seamus. You're a bit of a seedy guy. Even before you left, and now it's even worse because you're like the seedy guy that just reappeared one day. And so
Twice.
But yeah, twice. This is
aged.
technically the second time it's happened. So basically, from what you can tell, just from looking around and being in town for a while, you will have seen that the mine looks like it's doing very well for itself. You don't know what happened, because it looked like the mine, for instance, they hired you guys to try to scout out a better place to enter into the mines, the existing caverns and whatnot in the mountain, but apparently they don't need you. Either they found alternate route or something happened, and there has been a vast expansion. You will also notice that essentially there are now soldiers in town. Not just like watchmen. There is a formal watch. But there are also soldiers stationed from like the province of Wissenland. As if the town is important enough to have an active garrison placed inside the walls. Which might be why there are also cannons. That's what you can kind of gather. Even with a critical failure, you still would be able to gather that. So, and we're going to leave you now, since you critically failed. Marius Wolf. Next question.
Why has the Thaggy fallen on hard times?
Okay. It's so if you talk to Thordoom, it's doing fine. It's doing great, better than it ever has. If you talk to Sarah, Sarah will inform you that it's been difficult since the you know what, Marius, to get more detail, I'm gonna need you to make a gossip check just to find out how much Sarah has gleaned from this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I get any advantage because it's Sarah?
It's more like you're using your stats to make a check for her, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So yeah.
Then I'll roll. That's a 10 out of 33.
10 out of 33. Pretty dang good. Okay. Let's see here. Let me make sure I've got this all right. I am looking for my information. Sisters. Aha, there we go. Okay, so Thordoom is boisterous as ever. Clasps your hand. You get the manly shake, the forearm grab. He seems to be in good spirits, but essentially also in addition to just having a child, you know that Thordoom would help take care of a youngling, as he likes to call them. Especially Sarah. He treats her almost like she's one of his own. So he would take care of her regardless. But she's had to pick up extra work and odds and ends as kind of almost like a makeshift, not necessarily a healer, but something close to it, because there's been a lack of patronage. Not empty. You see people in the bar often. It just isn't as populated as it was when you left, which seems kind of odd because there's more people living in town now. So what you can glean with that check is that most of the residents of Sealburg are now visiting the Silk Canary, a very successful house of ill repute, which you guys passed by when you entered the town, and also one of the largest buildings in the city, apparently run by a very exotic beauty by the name of Nicolette Montague. Not much is known about her, but they run a fancy bar inside in addition to all of the other carnal pleasures that they serve. And Amberbelly has just not been able to compete as well. Now, he's still getting people, because not everybody can afford to blow their quote-unquote wad in the Silk Canary. So people still come to drink at the Silver
Nice.
Thaggy. So yes, but because of the business that's opened up, his business has slowed down pretty significantly. There's been a couple other bars that have opened up, and they've all closed because Thordoom has put them out of business. But when this opened up, it's pretty much been hard times because it is not closing anytime soon. All right, let's move on to Mr. Seamus. Next question.
Is Governor Freeze and or the gentleman from the mine that sent us on our mission, is he still around?
Okay. You would know that Governor Freeze is still the governor of Sealburg. More haggard in appearance. He will have had a... well, actually, you know what? He wouldn't have had a meeting with the two of you. He has too much to worry about. If you wanted to have a meeting with him, we could set something up through Mr. Krieger, if you would like. But essentially, he is still out and about, and he's still running the now like formal town. This isn't a little village anymore. This is a township, a very growing township at that. And he seems to be very busy. In fact, the governor's mansion has gotten more elaborate. It appears that more work has been done. It looks more ornate from the outside. If you were to travel inside, you would know that there's more staff at hand, and there appears to be more... the best word would be to call them politicians, but that's not exactly what they are. But there are people that do communal relations and keep a city running, in addition to just the governor now, because there's too many pieces of the pie for him to manage himself. So there are other people helping him. But he looks haggard if you ever see him. And often he's not out in public very much. He's just always chugging away, doing his thing. As far as the mine, this would be one that Marius would be familiar with, as Marius is now a full-fledged miner. And so he is employed at the mine here in Sealburg. They took you back despite you never coming home. And Mr. Brandyfoot, of course, took you back as an actual miner. He was very interested in how the hell you guys disappeared. I will ask you, this is important. What is your guys' story on what happened?
I would imagine telling him the whole thing, because I still have my crossbow.
You do?
I believe.
Now, when I say telling him the whole story, are you going to inform the people in town that there is something strange and bizarre in the mountains above them? Like the portal that you guys went through, or are you going to keep that secret?
I don't know. I feel like we would. I feel like Marius would at least.
You would tell Brandyfoot? Who would you tell? Let's put it like that.
Probably the governor. You know, we'd probably want to talk to the governor at some point.
Okay.
And
so we'll say that Freeze knows. Who else?
And Brandyfoot, you know, he's
Brandyfoot.
obviously like a strong, you know, holds a lot of power in the town.
Yes, he does.
I don't know, you know, we wouldn't explain every single detail, but we'd probably explain at least, you know, that there's a reason we've been gone for 8 years. It's because there's some type of sorcery up in the up in the mountains,
Yes.
and you know, definitely tell them about the chittering and
Oh yes.
the ratmen. You know, well, I don't know if we say
Ratmen.
ratmen. We say mutants.
Yeah, mutants. There we go. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
What about?
I would probably tell Amberbelly.
Okay, I was going to ask if
Yeah,
you
might
tell Thordoom.
tell Thordoom. You know,
Okay.
some
Definitely,
saw a guy with.
tell him that Marius got roofied.
Oh yes. Okay. I'm sure a lot of
would you.
tales were told with Mr. Thordoom and many more
Yeah.
in return, each more elaborate than the last. He would get very upset at the sound of what you described in the mountains, of course, and probably blow another hole in the roof.
Yeah.
Regardless of that. So we got Amber Belly. I'm assuming you'd tell Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sarah, Amber Belly, Freeze, and Brandyfoot. Anyone else?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on if someone would question us, maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, not
Like,
many people. Here's the thing. You've been gone for 8 years. Not many people remember you.
Yeah.
The town is
Victor
the town is
remember me?
large, and honestly, Seamus was an outsider, kind of, even though he was a local. And so you didn't have like a lot of friends in town outside of Marius and the couple of people that you're talking to. And Marius, likewise, also worked mostly outside of town. So you didn't have just a whole bunch of chums you were drinking at the bar with. So, a lot of people don't even recognize you guys, mostly because it would be strange to think back and see someone and realize that they haven't aged in like 8 or 9 years, that they've stayed the same age. And so people aren't putting it together who you are, essentially, is what I'm getting at. So you're not going to get a lot of questions, but talking to the people that you do, you will get some questions, and you're going to basically reveal to them that there's some kind of strange sorcery in the mountains, is what I'm getting, is what I'm gleaming from this. Are you going to detail where this chamber is?
I mean, I feel like it might be our civic duty to try to tell them, like, there's something up above,
If you, I am making a formal note.
Okay.
That you're detailing this to these people.
Also, probably telling, like, Governor Freeze that we saw some type of deal or something.
Okay.
Between mutants,
And he looks appalled. Of course, he's just distraught.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the two of you are just kind of sitting at the table. Krieger's been already dismissed from the room because Seamus has pissed him off. And so that he looks upset, obviously, and he basically, by the end of the meeting, he just kind of shuns the both of you out and is like, "Oh, I'll deal with it," and then you guys are set on your way. So okay, that'll work. Brandyfoot will, of course, take you in, Marius, especially after hearing everything that's happened. He will inform you, Marius, since you work for the mine now. He's showing pity on you, that you need a job. Decided to give you one. Basically, you will find out, Marius, that the mine, he will inform you that there were search parties that were sent after you guys when you never came back. And they found no trace of you besides the dead goblins. And any expedition up the mountain was given up. As luck would have it, for some reason, the cave-ins and accidents suddenly just stopped happening after you guys disappeared. And it's very strange how that worked out. And the mine went on to make a very decent income. That was mostly because of something else that happened. But what's more interesting is that more men were becoming sick the deeper they were delving into the mines, despite the cave-ins. And up until recently, and by recently I mean about the past year or so, the miners stumbled onto remnants of more Dowie tunnels that led them further into the mountain to unexplored places. And it led them to a massive depository of star metal, or as the Dowie like to call it, gromriel. One of the hardest metals in the Warhammer world. Very, very valuable material. And suddenly much more funding and importance was put into the mine, which also backs up Seamus's previous question. Hence the recent expansion and the garrison of militia loyal to the von Seelbergs of Nuln, the patrons of the recent College of Engineering, that also are the people who have been backing Seelberg from the beginning. So that is the family name, the von Seelbergs. All right, who's next? That question kind of went all over the place.
So a year is passing.
Yes. Do you have any other questions about town or anything else going on?
I do.
Let's hear it.
Ask away.
Is Otto still alive?
Old Man Otto is still kicking, just barely. And Old Man Otto is now essentially the equivalent of the captain of the Watch in Seelberg. He's the guy.
Good for him.
He's the dude. He didn't want it to be, but everyone else died, so he ended up being the guy. So it's just him. He's old, and he manages the Watch. He is still around. He occasionally comes into the Thaggy for a beverage. He doesn't frequent the House of Ill Repute that often. You probably don't ask him why, but he doesn't go there very often. And you would be informed if you had conversations with Otto that he runs the Watch now, essentially, and that if you ever needed a second income or an odd job, that you should seek him out, and he might pay you well.
All right.
How about you, Seamus? You got anything?
Would I come across paths with Angelica during this year?
Angelica Schuster. Angel, as you've known her, you actually have not seen her. As a matter of fact, nobody's seen her for a long time. Not as long as you guys have been gone, but it's been at least a few years. But that's not uncommon with her if you were to ask around, especially with Governor Freeze, as he's the one who often was the one who she directly reported to. You're not exactly sure of their relationship either. It's kind of strange because he's not exactly a military leader or anything like that. And it was a little odd to begin with while she was reporting to him, but despite the fact she hasn't been to town in a few years, she often, if you spoke to Governor Freeze, would disappear for large gaps of time and live out in the wilderness. She just lives out there. So she could be out there now. She could be dead. No one knows. She's been gone for a few years.
All right.
Marius Wolf, question.
Do we learn anything about this three fingers that was mentioned at the gate?
Go ahead and give me a gossip roll, Marius.
All right. Ooh, it's not very good. It's 45 out of 33.
45 out of 33. Okay. So essentially all that you can glean, even from like your contact with Otto now, because he's part of the Watch, but he's not part of the Watch. It isn't necessarily as invested in her case or its case, I guess. Nobody knows if it's a girl or a boy. No one has any idea. All they know is they're named Three Fingers. And apparently it is some kind of brigand that is living on the outskirts of the city. Not in the city, like outside the city, somewhere in the woods. And no one knows where they've taken up shop. There's been plenty of raids in the city. They've actually caught some of the some of their followers in the city, and most of them have a tattoo. They're not missing their fingers, although some of them probably are. They have a tattoo of essentially, it looks like a hand, like clutched in a fist, but the pinky and the ring finger are missing. If that makes any sense. Almost like they were cleaved away. Like part of the hand is missing. So they have a tattoo somewhere on their body. They're in different places. This is definitely some kind of criminal organization. And they're outside the city. That's pretty much all you get with that gossip check.
Okay.
Seamus, you got anything?
I can't think of anything else right now.
Man, don't want to ask about your mother. That's pleasant.
Ooh, I mean, she was on death's door when I left.
Well.
What about my house?
You don't even care about your mom? You just bypass your mom. Go to the house.
I was hoping to fix my house up.
Okay, well let's talk about your mom now before we get into that, because it's all stuff, bro.
I'll ask that. What about Seamus' mom?
Thank you. Somebody wants to find out about Seamus' mom.
Jeez.
I just want to rub my house in Maris's face.
Jeez, Seamus.
You're a right bastard.
Seamus, so I'm going to assume, Seamus, it's being a good son, would go look for your mom when you got into town. Seamus, you will have found out that the last place you saw her, you heard Father Lichter was taking care of her. I need you to make me a gossip check, Seamus.
I'm not good with gossip.
Make me one. See, nobody invested in gossip. Sorry.
Jesus. That's a 79.
Okay, that's horrible. All right, so you don't find out all this extra stuff. That's awesome for me. I wrote it out for no reason. It's fine. So you show up at the Temple of Sigmar, and the first thing you notice is the temple's not as well kept. The outside doesn't look like it's as taken care of as it was in the past. It doesn't look vacant, but it just doesn't look as well manicured as before. And you will come to find out that apparently Father Lichter has passed from this world. He is no longer in Sealburg, as far as you know. It apparently happened shortly after you were presumed missing. In his stead, there is a very zealous man by the name of Augustus Huss, who has taken up his post. He is always seen in full armor, and his fire and brimstone sermons have inspired almost a kind of cult of extremists in Sealburg that you can see milling about outside the temple. It's kind of unnerving as you pass by them. A lot of them look pretty rough, and most of them look relatively insane. They are lashing themselves occasionally in front of their... Basically just fire and brimstone, doom and darkness, kind of almost like a cult, if you would say. Or perhaps a fanatic would be the better word. Regardless. You would go in and enter the temple. And similar to the outside, it's not as well kept. It's kind of dusty, despite the people in here. And you find him. He's easy to spot out. He's the only man wearing armor, just in full plate armor around town. Shaved bald head, similar to Father Lichter, though he has very much a battle ready hammer slung across his hanging from his belt, essentially, and of course a pendant with a twin-tailed comet on it. And if you were to ask him about your mother, he would inform you that he has no idea what happened, any knowledge of her past when Father Lichter passed. And that's all you would get for him. But I'm assuming with this information, you would at least go back and ask at the Thaggy, at least ask Sarah and Thordoom if they know anything. So despite your horrible roll, you will get something out of this.
And his horrible attitude.
Yes.
Whoa.
That's true.
Hey.
That is also true. You will find out that there is now an established Garden of Moor where your mother now rests by your brother. She has passed.
Mm.
That's it. That's it, huh?
That's a damn shame.
It's a damn shame. Didn't give a shit about her. Awesome, Seamus. Awesome.
I'm gonna go drown my sorrows at the Silk Canary.
Silk Canary, of course you do. I'm gonna make you roll for STDs
geez.
later. Don't worry. So,
Oh yeah.
don't worry. I invented quite a few. It's gonna be great. Let's see here. So, here's something interesting, Seamus. I'm assuming you're going to ask about your house, your holdings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You will find out that while you were presumed dead and your mother passed, that they became property of the state, and they were sold. They, your land and your house are gone. So this is where we will do some role playing, Seamus, because you stumbled into my role play. It's beautiful. Seamus, I'm assuming you're walking by yourself. Well, actually, you would have a horse. So you do have a horse. I'm assuming you're riding your horse out to your old holdings, your old land. And as you are making your way, it's only a few miles outside of town. Go ahead and make me a perception check.
Ooh, that is good. That is a 13.
Okay, very good. How many success levels?
51. So that's, 2 or 3.
Okay,
Two.
good. So you have your eye out. Are you looking for anything in particular? Are you just kind of just walking or riding?
Yeah, just riding and looking.
Just riding. Just
been a
riding,
while.
kind of glancing around, looking around. Not looking for the, beastmen that might be lurking in the woods. It's fine. You didn't say it, so it's fine. You keep going. You keep riding out towards your abode. And, after a few miles pass, you eventually come to the spot where you think just around this next bend, you're going to see your house. And you have your crossbow slung over your back. You have your sword at your hip on your horse, and you hear just this boom, and you recognize it as the sound of a pistol. And it's coming from the nearby woods. Your horse startles. I will need you to make me a ride check to keep it under control.
All right. Is that ride horse?
Yes.
All right. That's a 41 out of 37.
Okay, you can use a fortune point to just make it a success if you'd like.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, you don't get thrown off your horse. That's a plus. It rears up and you calm your horse down. It takes a few seconds with just barely a success, essentially. You calm the horse down. Do you have a name for your horse, by the way? What would you like your horse to look like? Let's put it like that.
Let's see. A nice Arabian.
Okay, nice Arabian horse. Got it. The equivalent of an Arabian. So a smaller, more quick horse. So
Yeah, nice like chestnut color maybe.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna say it's almost an exotic horse, because most of the horses in the Empire are like stocky, large horses. But we'll say that you've gotten one possibly from some of the more exotic lands that humans inhabit. Perhaps you got it from Talea, Stalia, or maybe even Araby. Araby would probably be the best since it's an Arabian horse. Who would have thought? So we'll say that it was procured from Araby, and you just stumbled into ownership of said horse. Is it black?
We'll do brown with a black mane and a black tail.
Okay.
Do they call it a mane on a horse? I don't know.
It's good enough. I know what you're talking about. Do you have a name for your horse?
Ooh.
Please name it.
Yeah, we'll name it. We'll name it Rachel.
Name it Rachel. Rachel the horse. Okay, got it. All right. So the horse Rachel. You calm Rachel down, whisper her name into her ear, get her to calm down. And are you traveling in the direction of the gunshot, or are you heading to your holdings?
Ooh, being the good, road warden that I am, I'm gonna head to this gunshot.
Okay, all right. So you, at the sound of trouble, begin heading that direction, and you're not being stealthy. So I'm assuming you're riding. Are you getting off the horse? Or are you going to ride over there? It is through the woods.
No, I'll ride over there if the horse is capable of doing it.
Oh yes, yeah, more than capable. You don't need the check because of that talent you picked up. So you begin clearing. You can pick out a path easily enough. You're familiar with these woods, though they haven't changed much. So that's at least nice. You head in the direction of where you thought the gunshot barked out. And a scene unfolds before you. You start hearing the clashing of metal on metal and the sounds of men gasping from wounds and possibly dying. And you suddenly emerge from around kind of like a hill. You come around the side of the hill and you see that there are two groups of men fighting each other. It is a full-on battle scene. You have a group of, we're going to say 5 men that are desperately clinging to life. In fact, 4 of them are either dead or mortally wounded on the ground, and there's only 1 left, fending off 3 more attackers. And it looks like there are several of the attackers are down as well. The defenders are dressed in leathers, nice leathers. You see a chainmail shirt underneath most of their kind of get up. They have nice hats, very well, you would recognize them. They're the hats of road wardens. They're kind of a wide brim to them and a black color. And you would recognize kind of the attire as these are road wardens. And they're obviously being besieged by some people out here in the woods. Who would have thought? And with your perception check, you would be able to pick out tattoos on some of the dead, having the fist minus the couple of hands on their fingers. So these are definitely brigands of 3 fingers. And they are being attacked, and it's not looking good. The man at this point, he's got his back up against a tree, and he's got a pistol in one hand, and he has almost like a cutlass in the other, and he's just barely fending them off. You see multiple deep gouges across his body, and it looks like he's probably not long for this world without your intervention, if you so choose. Because they have not noticed you. They're too enthralled in battle.
Yes, if they look like road wardens, I will intervene.
Go ahead and roll me initiative.
All right.
Oh, yeah. No, we're going to have a fight. Oh, man. How could this happen?
Initiative. I got a 9.
Okay, got a 9. All right. So, you watch as the man with his back up against the tree. We're going to say you're about 40, 50 feet from him, which puts you about 35, 40 feet from the brigands, which are assaulting him. And they look dirty, though they are also wearing leather armor. It just looks like it's heavily used and not as well maintained, obviously. They each have an assortment of weapons. One of them has like a spear, a crude spear. The other one has 2 sets of, they look like daggers in both hands. And he's apparently the one pressing most of the attack. And the last has a whip in one hand. And he has, it looks like a very, very small pistol. Extremely small. You've never seen a pistol that small before. Like it looks like it would barely fit in the palm of his hand. Kind of unique. You watch as the road warden deflects 2 attacks coming in from the daggered individuals. They slash out. He deflects both of them with his cutlass. And in return, he points it at the man's chest and boom! Puts a hole through center mass, and the brigand falls backwards, stone cold dead. And a waft of just smoke billows out, obscuring his features. It is now your turn since that man's dead. So what would you like to do? There are still 2 men attacking this road warden.
I'd like to sling the crossbow and take a shot at the guy that said had a spear.
Yes, there's one with a spear. Go ahead and make me a shot.
All right. Ooh, yeah, that is going to be a 2 out of 56.
2 out of 56. Dang. Okay. How much damage is that total? That's a lot. It's more than enough. You aim the repeater crossbow that you have, and you've had lots of experience with this thing at this point. And you aim it steadily at the individual with the spear, and just the bolt, you see it pass into the smoke, and then you see the man kind of stumble out of the gaseous cloud from the discharge of this pistol. And he stumbles out, and he stumbles and looks at you, and then he just collapses onto his face with a bolt sticking out of the back of his head. And he is dead. Very much dead.
Nice.
Would you like to do anything else?
I will not. I'll maybe just move the horse a little closer, but that's it.
Okay. You move a little bit closer, especially after the bolt ringing out, and you see the man, the last man with the whip and the pistol, kind of stumble out of the cloud himself, and he's kind of coughing, and looks around, notices that all of his companions are dead, and he is going to, looks like, make a run for it. Before he does, though, he is going to lash out with his whip in your direction, not hitting you, making a loud popping, thrashing noise right next to your horse. And I'm going to need you to make me a ride check. This time at -20 from all the commotion that's been happening.
All right. Oh, I would have passed. I got a 32 out of 17.
Ooh, man. Do you want to re-roll it?
Let's see. Would you let me use my momentum for a success?
No.
Damn.
No, because it's a check. The checks are separate.
Yeah, let's re-roll it. I can't embarrass myself.
Go ahead.
In front
Yeah,
of these guys.
Sure. It's only 17%. You could re-roll this.
Ooh, that's worse. That was a 56.
Okay. So, as the whip crashes next to your horse, the man bellows out, and your horse rears up in terror. And, of course, you slide off the back of said horse, as you were not expecting this. You onto the ground. Go ahead and make me an athletics check to see if you keep your feet under you. or if you smack hard into the ground.
I smack hard into the ground. I got a 60.
Yes! All right. So the wind just out of you, and you can't speak as your horse turns and bolts the other direction away from this individual, gallops over the top of you, doesn't stomp you to death, so there's a plus to that. As it runs off, you hope that you can get a hold of it. But the man, seeing you prone on the ground, levels the pistol and is now going to attempt to shoot you.
Oh.
And you watch Seamus as he pulls the trigger, and you hear a click, and nothing happens. Ooh. And he goes, ugh.
Oh.
And then he goes to look at it, and it just blows up in his hand.
No.
It explodes. It explodes. He's and there's just a stump where his hand used to be. It's gone, and he's clutching at it. Blood's flowing all over the place, and he just falls down crying. And within like the next couple seconds, he's dead. Massive blood loss. And so there's no more bandits. What would you like to do? We're out of combat now.
I'd probably walk over and check on those guys, and if they're okay, I'm gonna go find my horse.
Okay, you go to check on them, and they're all dead, with the exception of the man against the tree, and he looks grievously wounded. He just, as he sees you approach, he levels the pistol at you. What are you doing?
Oh, hey, easy friend. I'm a fellow warden just like you.
I've never seen you before. And he looks wary of you.
I come and go around these parts, but you know how my name's Seamus McGrady. Just in case you might have ever heard of me before.
And there's a bit of a spark of recognition at the name. Seamus, you say, would you mind? And he's kind of motioning you over to help him walk, essentially.
I'll kind of put my arm down and kind of pick him up, you know.
Okay, yeah. He got do like kind of the shoulder sling is what he really needs. And you begin walking him out. He looks heavily wounded. And he mentions to you, our camp is just around the corner. If you could get me there, perhaps I could find aid.
Alright, not a problem. How far is it? Do you think you can walk the whole way, or do I need to get my horse and carry on the horse?
The horse would be best, but we could make the walk if we need to. It's not very far.
Alright, if you say so. We'll take the walk. Just don't go dying on me.
And you see a little bit of blood cough up into his hands, out of his mouth. Kind of wipes it away as best he can. At this point, he's got his sword and his pistol holstered. And you will notice there's a bracer of pistols across his chest. There's actually 4 of them. 3 of them look like they've been reused recently, and this is the last. But he sheathes his bloody sword, and he looks like he's a mess. So if you want to call your horse, I'll need you to make me a ride check, sir. Because that's what we're going with. I'm not sure how, unless you can convince me of something else to use to call your horse.
Now I'll probably just whistle out of that first.
Okay. Yeah, just go ahead and give me a check.
This is gonna be a good one. That's a 32 out of 37.
Okay, good. So you whistle. It takes about a minute or two before you hear the horse slowly begin coming back in your direction. You kind of pick out where Rachel is, and you take the man who at this point gives you his name. The name is Velkin. I appreciate your aid, sir. Are you going to kind of help him up onto the horse?
Yeah, I'll help him up on there.
Okay. All right. Are you riding with him, or are you walking beside the horse?
Walking beside it.
Okay. All right. And he kind of gives you directions, and you immediately realize that he's directing you to your land. And so you begin heading that direction, and Seamus, or once there was just a dilapidated set of houses and what is your family's land, there's now a small, almost like fortress community kind of built up. There are wooden walls with almost like a makeshift gate, nothing fancy, very practical in make. And it looks like this is the headquarters for the road wardens near Sealburg. Now, you would notice that, you would know that most road wardens, they operate kind of like highway patrol. So they have kind of like outposts and stations around the provinces that they police. And usually they don't stay in one place. So it's unusual that there's this much fortification, because usually they're kind of used as just stopping points to get out of the rain or something like that, or a place to meet up. But this one is heavily fortified, and looks like the road wardens here actually reside here, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. And you approach, and there's a figure standing on top of, you're assuming, some kind of watchtower near the wall. And there's a crossbow immediately pointed at you as you begin walking up. He sees the wounded man, and immediately they begin coming out, and you see 3 or 4 road wardens come out, exasperated, just desperate to find out what happened. And they take the man off of your horse and bring you both inside, if you so choose.
Yes.
Okay. You bring you inside the camp, and once you're inside the camp, they take you to... they basically tell you to follow them into the camp. You see your house, which has been renovated. In fact, all of the houses here have been renovated. And the shrine to your ancestors has been preserved. It has not been touched. It looks like, if anything, it's been a little bit more spruced up. It doesn't look like it's been neglected for 8 years, longer than it was before. But with that out of the way, you will be informed that the men in the woods obviously were road wardens that were ambushed by the brigands that they've been hunting in these woods. And the man you saved, Velkin, is the de facto leader of these road wardens. In fact, he is the head of what they are known as Velkin's Black Hearts, is the name of their company. They have taken up residence in your previous holdings, as they were sold off when you were presumed dead after the passing of your mother. You, after saving the captain and his sergeant, who you find out later as some of the men go back to the scene, you don't have exactly the best skills when it comes to medicine, and one of them was slightly still alive. It was the second in command, and most of the men are dead outside of these two. The other ones were either too horribly maimed to be saved, or they were already dead. So these two are saved, and you become a topic of interest around the camp. I'm assuming you spend time with these guys a little bit, at least stay the night, maybe have dinner, something like that, get to find out what's been going on. And you would find out that Three Fingers is very, very active. And the district, the province of Wissenland, specifically the von Sealbergs, have been making lots of political waves with the court and Nuln to heavily police this area, because Three Fingers has been stealing from the caravans and, of course, the payments that have been moving from the capital city to Sealburg. And they've been getting picked off right at the last moment, where there's not as much of a show of force. So they have been tasked with finding and rooting out Three Fingers, and of course keeping all of the caravans safe on this road. Which the road is paved now, which you've already found out previously in the last episode. So there is that. You are offered a position, Seamus. You are offered not only just a regular position at first, but after a few months, you are trusted enough to become a road sergeant, as you gained enough experience to do so in your travels so far. So you are the leader of a few men at this point. But I'm assuming you don't have any qualms about working for the Black Hearts?
I do not.
Okay.
They
You
seem
are
like
also
good people.
Yeah, you were also given your original house as the man that was staying in it died at the place that you picked up the rest of them. So your abode is your own once again. That was kind of lucky that it worked out like that. But okay. And you are one of Velkin's kind of top men. You're not the guy, but you're getting there. You're getting there. You're definitely one of almost like his lieutenants. So, okay. That is all we got for you, Seamus. Good question, because it led to that whole scene. Marius, what you got, man? Got any more questions?
I do. I'm curious about this rat problem in the city. You know, you mentioned rats the size of cats as we entered in the city.
Yes, very, very, very large vermin present. There was always vermin present, even before you went missing. Usually not in this numbers, but that also might be expected with the city growing as much as it has. There's more people, therefore there's more rats. But them being this big is highly unusual. And you've seen a few like that, and at least in the darkness you saw them. During the day, they're not as active because they're rats. But there has been, what you will have found out. You know what? Go ahead and make me a gossip roll.
Okay. Ooh, that's a 1 out of 33.
Oh, man. Critical success?
Yeah.
Okay. So, with a critical success, you will find out that there has been a rat catcher's branch from the Rat Catchers Guild established in Sealburg. You will have remembered that Mr. Catch was supposed to be a part of said branch. He was supposed to be one of the founding people here. With his disappearance, there was a shift, and it took a while for them to get enough people to come and establish their own guild hall, which they have. It's not very fancy, but it is decent enough building if you wanted to go visit it. You don't know who runs the guild because no one really does, if that makes any sense. They all apparently report to the governor's mansion. And this is what you're getting with your critical success, because this is little known information. They all report to the mansion, and they're seen visiting Krieger. And Krieger is the one who pays them, and pays them well. A little bit more than normal, in fact. The rat problem has been stable. It hasn't gotten any worse than it has, but it hasn't gotten any better either. And come to find out that there is a vast tunnel system of sewers underneath Sealburg that are remnants from the Dawi mine. And they apparently link up with the mine at some point. And it has taken a long time for there to be enough rat catchers present in the city to fully patrol it. There are patrol routes now. But for the most part, that is what's going on with the rat situation. It is unusual that there are some as big as they are, but at the same time, it's Warhammer. These things happen. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Jameis, you got any other questions?
No.
Okay. Marius, any pertinent questions?
Yes.
Okay.
How's Mr. Gold doing? How's his shop?
Mr. Gold. Oh, glad you asked about Mr. Gold. So,
I was hoping he was dead.
oh, you wish. You wish. All right. Let me make sure I've got it all. Where are you, Mr. Gold? There's Brandyfoot. Aha. Here we go. So, you guys will have noticed at this point that there is a formal food market that has been set up in Sealburg with stalls and various vendors. Gold's, however, has apparently expanded, and there are more than one shop with Mr. Gold's insignia on them, and even labeled now. There are actually, it does say Mr. Gold's in Reichspiel, for those of you who can read. And apparently, there were you know what? I'll give it to you. I'll give this to you with your previous test. I'm not going to make you test it again.
All right.
There were a few shops that opened up in competition to Mr. Gold in the past, over these past 8 years, that mysteriously burned down and then were purchased by Mr. Gold. And that's how he has spread his influence across the city, turning him into the de facto merchant of Sealburg. He is the guy. Of course, there are rumors of foul play, but nothing has been proven. As Otto will tell you, nothing can be proven as to what happened. It sounds like many palms were greased. But he is doing well for himself. And his main shop that you visited all that long ago has been what's it called? It's gotten like a full makeover. It looks almost like they tore down the old one and just built a new building there. It is 2 stories, just like the previous one, and much, much larger. In fact, it looks like some of the houses that were nearby were demolished in the process. Hopefully they weren't living there when it happened. But who knows? Who knows? He's been doing very well for himself. Let's just put it like that. And there are rumors that Mr. Gold not only runs most of the shops around town, but also runs a lot more businesses of entertainment.
All right.
Anything else you'd like to know?
Are there any other points of interest that have popped up in our absence that would be kind of vital to the community, I guess?
Okay. All right. That is good. Pretty much at this point, I'll just go with the main things I have written out that would be important to you guys. If you don't have questions about anything else specific. So,
I mean, I do have one more question, and I think you know what it is.
What is it?
Well, I don't know if this is technically an endeavor or not, but Marius would be looking to make a little coin on the side.
Exactly. Okay. We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Okay.
Okay. So first off, you guys would notice that that of course there is the Temple of Shalia that has been opened, the Temple of the Holy Sisters, and it is managed by a matriarch named Selina Lexis, something like that. An older but still beautiful woman of compassion and mercy, who is aided by Sarah, and of course there's a full coven of women that live there, and a few men that act almost like guards of a sort. Though, of course, we'll get into it if you ever decide to visit. Essentially, we'll go into more detail.
What's her name one more time?
Her name is Matriarch Selina Lexis.
Okay.
Okay. Marius, you would find this out quickly because you will have noticed that little Priscilla can read. Something that was
nice.
quite a feat for you, and Seamus still can't. There has been a school set up in the newly built City Hall, which is ran by a kind of clergy, which are followers of the cult of Verena, the goddess of justice and knowledge. Her teacher is a strange man by the name of Henry Herring that spends most of his time in the equivalent of a library, or what passes for a library in Sealburg, as it is not exactly a wealth of knowledge and information, though many things have been gleaned over the long 8 years. And he's more of almost a librarian, essentially. But the other members of the cult of Verena act as judges, lawyers, do a lot of they kind of all work in that kind of school, if that makes any sense. There is a full court system, and a grounds to carry out sentencing have been made available near the town square, where you can see the hangman's block and, of course, a headman's axe, depending on how severe the trespasses were. And there's also a spot for you to burn people alive nearby, because this is Warhammer.
Lovely.
The Garden of Moor, you kind of heard about. If you just ever passed by the garden, you would notice that it is rather heavily defended, which is unusual, which is not unusual for Warhammer. It might be unusual for me and you why the hell are there like guards stationed at the cemetery? It's unusual, but there are walls. This is almost like a fortress for the dead. There are stout walls with wrought iron gates and tall stone, with the kind of like the spiky points at the top. I don't know what the hell they're called, but they're there. Mm-hmm. If you were to glance through kind of the front gate, you would see that there are headstones, and even a few mausoleums in this time span can be seen through the gates, guarded by two very large figures, garbed in heavy plate armor as black as midnight, and wielding halberds. They never speak, and are rarely gone whenever people pass, and they barely move. In fact, some people have almost made it a game, kind of trying to get them to move or say something, which they never do. In fact, it is almost unknown if these are the only two guards, or if there are more. No one knows. There might be more behind the walls. Not many people are allowed entry into the cemetery unless you are interring someone, or if you are visiting a loved one that was deceased, in which case you are kept under watch. Now, there are several priests that inter the dead and are summoned to collect those that have passed within the walls of Sealburg. The kind of de facto head of this Garden of Moor is the dour priest that acts as custody of this garden, named Horst. That's all. You just have a name, just the name Horst. And Seamus, you would also notice that, glancing in, you would notice that there are black roses that grow on the graves inside of said garden. And we'll leave that at that. Inside
all the graves, or just
inside the cemetery, just a few of them, but they grow inside of there, and you will notice that some of them are even starting to grow up and around the wall, almost like a vine that has roses on it, which is super not normal, but it happens. You guys would also notice that there is, at least Marius would, because of his relationship with Old Man Otto, that there is an engineer stationed near the mine who maintenances the handguns and cannons the town possesses. His name is Herbert Sachs. He is a very bizarre man with odd gadgets and a workshop full of steam and cogs, including a working clock, and various prototype pistols and telescopes if you were to come visit. So there is an actual engineer from the recently established College of Engineering that has not been around very long at all. But there is an engineer here to help look out for the stuff around Sealburg. In addition to that, you would also notice that there is a weapon and armor smith named Everhart is the name of the building that has been established. It's also near the mine in what is becoming something of a tradesman's quarter. You can go to that kind of part of town and find a lot of people that have certain skills and trades to peddle. And that is about all I have that is imperative, unless you have any more questions.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
Nope.
She got anything, Seamus?
No. I'm assuming there's been very limited to no beastmen attacks since.
There have been, of course, they're not on the walls themselves, but there are, as you would know, Seamus, being out there with the road wardens, beastmen are still a very much threat out in the wilderness around town, though they have not gathered in numbers large enough to attack the town outright. But there is still remnants of Tarkag's herd out in the woods and the dark places of the forest. And the road wardens do come to blows with them very often, especially while looking for Three Fingers men. And you also come across a fair number of goblins as well.
All right.
Okay, so with that out of the way, Marius, I believe you were looking for something. You were looking for, asking around, trying to figure out what's going on. Your questions have brought you to the oh-so-familiar, not familiar establishment of Mr. Gold's previous pawn shop. Would you like to enter and speak with the man himself?
I guess I would. See how he's doing,
Of course you
how
would.
old Oro's doing.
Of course you would. You enter and push the door open. There is not even a squeak. The hinges are oiled and clean. And you see that the shelves are now immaculate and very well taken care of. And there are several men fervishly cataloging and polishing and keeping everything in order around the inside of the business. You glance off to your right and you see Oro sitting on his stool eating, it looks like, a bucket of rats. There's just a bucket and there's rat tails and like squirming rats inside the bucket, and he's reaching his meaty paw in and dangling them out. The ones that are the size of like a dog, and then just biting their heads off. It's a horrifying sight. And then he just begins gulping them down. It's grisly and disgusting. But Oro is there, and he is none the wiser of your presence. You take a few steps in, and from behind the counter you hear, come in, customers. Mr. Gold is at your service. And he peeks around the corner. You... where have you been?
Marius goes, Mr. Gold, I see you've done quite well in my absence.
Of course.
How are things?
They are quite well, obviously. I've been on the up and up, just doing my part as a dutiful citizen of Sealburg as it is.
I'm sure, Mr. Gold. I'm sure everything was perfectly above board.
You jest, Mr. Wolf. Gosh, how long has it been? 8 years.
Not long enough.
Oh, of course not. You look like you haven't aged a day yourself, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. I do try to take care of myself.
Indeed, you do.
Then I have heard rumors, Mr. Gold, that you might have the odd job for a man trying to provide for his family. Is that true?
Oh, I see. I need you to make me a good charm test.
A good charm test? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Let's see here. All right. That's going to be a 26 out of 43. I don't know if that's good enough.
36. One success level. You're on the fence. Okay, so here's what happens.
Okay.
You say that to him, and Mr. Gold, he's fiddling with his massive, gaudy amounts of rings on his fingers. Like there's so many rings on his fingers that he can barely like clench his into a fist. There's just rings upon rings, gold and sapphires and gems and all kinds of things. He has multiple necklaces on. It's ostentatious to the extreme. His robes, he's wearing robes, and they appear to be made from like silk, like some exotic material that you've actually seen from the Far East recently. But you have no idea how the hell he's gotten a hold of them, but he has. Well, of course, I run a steady business as it was, as you might know, everything very much above board. I pay all the taxes. And who might you have heard this thing about with? Come asking for favors from Mr. Gold.
Just to and fro, here and there,
No, I don't know, Wolf.
Mr. Gold, come on. I can't give away all my secrets. I'm just asking for a little help.
Secrets indeed. Secrets we all have. I'd hate for certain parties to look into your background, Mr. Wolf. A man disappears for 8 years, comes back the same. Some might think that, I dare say, heresy.
Oh, Mr. Gold. Such a killer, such a joker.
Such a joker. Is Marius sweating at this point?
Oh, no, he's not.
Okay.
He kind of leans up closer to Mr. Gold. Mr. Gold, you don't perhaps remember my prodigious strength, do you?
And he begins backing away. And he's glancing over at Oro. And Oro doesn't notice him. He's like, of course, Master Wolf, of course. I see. You were asking about possibly a job of sorts. Perhaps we could work something out. I have many things you could do for me.
Ooh.
First off, you could, of course, shine my shoes. I enjoy it very much. It's a dutiful task. I will pay you well. Half a copper.
How much?
Half a copper per shoe. Yes, indeed. That's one full copper for a shine. I mean, that's significant for what you're worth. I mean, what skills do you possess besides such brute strength that you may have?
That is my main one. Also, killing things. That's turned out to be something I'm rather talented at.
I see. Well, I may have more work for your friend. He seems more the type I would like to deal with. But for you, perhaps we could come to an arrangement if you will not shine my shoes.
I think I'll have to pass, Mr. Gold.
Well, in that case, can you keep a secret, Master Wolf?
Oh. To Sigmar's glorious throne, I could, yes.
There are 3 rules to the secret, and he motions for you to follow him.
All right, I follow.
You begin following him, and he begins walking behind the counter, and you notice that there are 2 large men standing behind the counter out of view that you didn't know were there before. And they are in full gear. They are wearing breastplates. They have nice gauntlets on, very good-looking swords at their hips. And it looks like they had them at the ready should any violence transpire within Mr. Gold's domain. You pass by them and they just kind of sternly look at you. And Mr. Gold, come. Be quick about this. And you...
I just kind of nod at him, lads.
Kind of nod. Okay.
Lads.
Begin following Mr. Gold. And you pass into a room that there are stairs that go up to the second floor. And then you notice off to the left, Mr. Gold approaches, it looks like a painting in the wall. And he grips the side of the painting and pulls it open like it was a door. And there is a doorway there that opens up. A piece of the wall shifts and there is a wall. And he motions you in quickly.
All right, go through.
Okay, awesome. The first rule is we do not talk about the fight ring as he's walking down the stairs. The second rule is we do not talk about the fighting ring. And then you make it to the bottom of the stairs and you see there are a lot of people down here. It's all lit by torchlight. And there is a ring down here in the bottom of Mr. Gold's basement. And there are people, there's one guy taking money, he's taking bets, he's going around collecting money from everybody. They're all kind of hollering and screaming, "Oh, yeah." And you can hear the wet thump and smack of flesh on flesh. And the third rule is no shirts, no shoes. And you glance into the ring and you see there's two men, barefoot, bare-chested, beating the shit out of each other. Just hammering away in this like brutal boxing match of some kind. And it's a spectacle. Do you like what you see, Mr. Wolf?
Oh, I dare say I might be able to earn a little coin here.
A gambling man could earn very much here. This will be our little secret.
Would it be possible, Mr. Gold, if I was able to contend?
Compete?
Ah, yes.
Oh, well. I'm sure we could work something out.
I'm sure you'd hate to see my beautiful face get punched.
I would much love to see something beautiful destroyed. And he will quickly turn on his heel and begin heading upstairs. And that is where we are going to take our break.